Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of The Gaming Gang. So welcome aboard. Tonight is August 24th. It is a Monday, and this is episode 531 of the Daily Dope. So if this is your first time joining me, let me point out this is just very, very casual. Just hanging out, talking about tabletop gaming. So we chat about board games, role-playing games, miniatures games, you name it. If it's played on your tabletop, we're going to be talking about it as well. Every once in a while, we'll talk a little PC gaming and sometimes some pop culture, but for the most part, it's tabletop gaming around here. So I do want to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that notification bell because it will not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, it'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as my unboxing of Beneath the Med from GMT Games. So this is my latest video. Looks pretty good. If you are a fan of the Hunter series, definitely want to check it out. I will have a review of that coming up in the very near future. I also want to mention, because this is a live stream, it also means that there is chat available. So it is not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you'd like to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, so far we've got the Madman, A Gray Day, and Dan from No Enemies Here are in chat tonight. Very cool, very cool. Gotta admit, started the show a couple minutes late. It is really hot and humid in the Chicagoland area today. In fact, we hit about 97. I don't even want to guess what the humidity is. Ungodly. That's about what I could tell you. It's pretty bad. So, and then when I got everything loaded up, the camera seemed to be off a little bit. So hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully the audio's in sync. That seemed to be all right. But you never know. Mondays are always kind of weird. You know, if I haven't done a live stream in a few days, things can be kind of bizarre. So, of course, last week I did not do a show on Thursday because it was my nephew Cameron's 19th birthday. So did get some gaming in with he and some of the gang over the weekend. So we got some reviews on the horizon, so that'll be good. And other than that, not a whole lot of excitement. Not a whole lot of excitement going on. I do have a good chunk of tabletop gaming news today we're going to jump into in just a moment. I do see that Kevin R. Smith has popped on in saying that the Chicago area is hotter than Dayton, Ohio. Yes, good old Dayton. I had been through Dayton quite a few times when I used to deliver RVs around the country. Good to have you. Welcome aboard, Kevin. I think this might be the first time you've joined us here in chat. If it is, howdy, howdy. I'm pretty sure this is the first time Kevin may have popped in. I don't know. I'm lucky I can remember it's Monday today, right? Anyway, a couple of things I will talk about, but we will wait until after the news for those. Nothing too exciting. Well, I mean, nothing like crucial or anything like that. But, well, you know what? One of them I'll talk about right now before I jump to the news. If you comment on a YouTube video and it's a really nasty comment and it's not like a legitimate critique, I just delete it. I'm just letting you know. Just letting you know. So grade A is like Tasha's Cauldron. Could that be in the news today? I wonder. You have to wait to find out a grade A. So without further ado, let's jump on into the news, because arriving next week from Thundergryph Games is Iwari, and I've got the dope. Maybe if the teleprompter will start. There we go. Evermore have they walked the world of Iwari. Evermore have they embodied its spirit and shaped its lands. They are stewards of the earth, 5 titans that make the cosmos breathe. On Iwari, there are no teeming masses, no continent-wide civilizations. Humanity is in its infancy, living in scattered tribes in forest, tundra, and desert. Now we have left our ancestral homelands to explore the vast, uncharted regions, encountering other fellow tribes and exchanging knowledge, culture, and wisdom. Oh, I'm sure there's some fighting too. Maybe not in this game, but, in reality it would have been. In our journey, we all live in harmony with the Titans. And though distant to us, they decide our fate. And yet only we don't know if they've created us or we created them. Iwari is an abstract-like Eurogame in which players represent different tribes looking for their identity by traveling around far lands and expanding their settlements into 5 different regions on the board. In the game, players use cards for 2 different actions. First, to place tents and expand their settlements into 5 different regions on the board in a majority game that scores on each territory. Or second, construct nature totems to bond with the Titans by placing them on regions and score points based on the totem majorities in adjacent territories. During the game, players can complete missions that grant small perks and score points by having the majority of tents in each territory at the end of the first card cycle. At game end, the majority of tents will be scored again, along with the majority of nature totems in 2 adjacent regions and settlements that players have created. As an example, 4 more tents in an uninterrupted sequence along one of the roads on the board. Iwari reimagines the award-winning game Web of Power by Michael Schacht by adding new layers of strategy, tribe player boards, different maps with their own set of rules, modules that can be added to the game, and unique cooperative and solo modes. Iwari is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives next week. So cool. Looks kind of interesting. I have never played Web of Power, but I like the art style to this. These tents and totems look kind of neat as well. Could be kind of interesting. It looks like it's jam-packed with a lot of these tokens and tents too. So something to keep in mind. A light strategy game, no doubt, because of course it's a kind of a majority scoring for area control. Also arriving next week, maybe, is Aliens Bug Hunt from Upper Deck, and I've got a tiny bit of dope. They mostly come at night. Mostly. All right, that was a pretty bad Newt impersonation, right? Mostly. One thing is for sure, they're coming, and they'll keep coming. Your challenge in Aliens Bug Hunt is to complete the mission and evacuate the complex, because these xenomorphs converging from every direction are heartless, smart, relentless, and hungry. Pick your favorite character from the movie Aliens, each with a unique ability. Every role is critical as players rely on each other to cover their 6 and make it out alive. The complex is comprised of 30 different location tiles to create different challenges. Private Hudson might ask whether this is a stand-up fight or just another bug hunt. The real question is, who's hunting who? Aliens Bug Hunt is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around an hour, and it is going to carry an MSRP of $39.99 when it arrives maybe next week. So this is the story that we've got. According to retailers and distributors, this is going to arrive next week. According to everybody else, they're saying September, maybe October. I don't know. And I got to be honest, there is very, very little information out there. There isn't even info on this game over at Upper Deck. I don't know. I will mention, I am a big fan of Legendary, the Aliens game. It's actually my favorite Legendary's game. And yes, I am a fan of Marvel, right? But to me, the Alien game, or Aliens, I think it's Aliens. I think it's Legendary Aliens, plural, really does kind of capture the whole essence of the Aliens movies. Now, I have not played 007. I am really, really interested in that. Once Jason Brenner left Upper Deck, I have not heard anything from Upper Deck. So I don't know. All right. So in chat, we've got Kurt Pearson, who I believe is another new viewer popping into chat. Welcome aboard. Mel Winius from York has arrived as well. Am I missing anybody? No, I think I've got everybody. So if I have missed saying hello to you in chat, chime in case you somehow slipped under the radar. But anyway, this is something to kind of keep an eye out for. Although, like I said, I wish I had way more information about this game as opposed to a picture of the box and a sell sheet. That's about all that's really out there. All right, let's move on to some miniatures news, because the second edition of the FROSTGRAVE Fantasy Skirmish Miniatures rules is now available. It's from Osprey Games. Here's the dope. A revised and expanded edition of the multi-award-winning fantasy wargame featuring updated rules, new spells, and scenarios to challenge adventurers in the Frozen City. Amid the frozen ruins of an ancient city, wizards battle in the hopes of discovering the treasures of a fallen empire. In this fantasy skirmish wargame, each player takes on the role of a wizard from one of 10 schools of magic and builds his band of followers. The wizard's apprentice will usually accompany his master, and more than a dozen other henchman types are available for hire, from lowly thugs to heavily armored knights and stealthy thieves. This new edition of the multi-award-winning fantasy skirmish wargame offers improved rules based on years of player feedback, a revised spell list, and a host of brand new scenarios. It remains fully compatible with all previously published FROSTGRAVE supplements, allowing players to revisit past adventures as well as face new challenges. Choose a wizard from one of 10 schools of magic and select from a list of 80 spells. Hire a warband filled with soldiers from lowly thugs and thieves to mighty knives and knives. Knights, Jeff. Duh, knights. Let's try that again. To mighty knights and barbarians, then lead your men into the frozen ruins of the magic city of FROSTGRAVE on the hunt for ancient treasures and the secrets of lost magic. Be warned, it's a deadly place filled with rival wizards, wandering monsters, animated constructs, and demonic entities. Do you dare enter the frozen city one more time? Right now, the 224-page PDF is available at Drive-Thru RPG for $24.50. The hardcover book is available from Osprey, I think. So here's where I run into what's maybe going on there. But it's supposedly in stock in the US, out of stock in the UK. It's kind of unusual because usually it's the other way around. They usually run out of stock here in the US and still have stock over in the UK. Just like I'm supposedly waiting for the Undaunted games from Osprey to arrive, but they are being sent from the UK, so it is taking some time. But I have not played FROSTGRAVE. I remember I glanced through the first edition of the rules. It looked pretty interesting. The thing that really appeals to me is the fact that it doesn't require tons of minis. You can easily get away with, of course, you probably want monsters and things like that, right? The wandering monsters and demons and stuff, try to paint those up. But for the most part, you can get away with having a dozen minis on each side. Yeah, the wizard, the apprentice, and the rest of the warband. I like that. I feel a strong appeal of skirmish gaming out there. That is for certain. Anyway, but as I mentioned, the PDF is available, and I think the hardcover is available here in the US as well. So there is some discussion about TASHA's Cauldron of Everything, because today Wizards of the Coast did reveal there's a new Dungeons and Dragons supplement that's arriving in November. I've got the dope on TASHA's Cauldron of Everything. What wonderful witchery is this? A magical mixture of rules options for the world's greatest role-playing game. That's Wizards of the Coast's words, not mine. The wizard Tasha, whose great works include the spell Tasha's Hideous Laughter, has gathered bits and bobs of precious lore during her illustrious career as an adventurer. Her enemies wouldn't want these treasured secrets scattered across the multiverse, so in defiance, she has collected and codified these tidbits for the enrichment of all. Included in the book are expanded subclasses. Try out subclass options for every Dungeons & Dragons class, including the Artificer, which appears in the book. I know a lot of people dislike the Artificer. More character options. Delve into a collection of new class features and new feats, and customize your character's origin using straightforward rules for modifying a character's racial traits. Introducing group patrons. Oh, that's coming from Dungeon Crawl Classics, isn't it? Whether you're part of the same criminal syndicate or working for an ancient dragon, each group patron option comes with its own perks and types of assignments. There's spells, artifacts, and magic tattoos. Discover more spells as well as magic tattoos, artifacts, and other magic items for your campaign. Expanded rules options. Try out rules for sidekicks, supernatural environments, natural hazards, and parlaying with monsters. More about that in a little bit. And gain guidance on running a session 0. A plethora of puzzles, ready to be dropped into any D&D adventure. Puzzles of varying difficulty await your adventurers, complete with traps and guidance on using the puzzles in a campaign. It's full of expanded content for players and dungeon masters alike. Hopefully the players don't read the puzzle parts. Kind of be a letdown, right? This book is a great addition to the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. Once again, I'm saying I think it would be more apt towards Dungeon Masters. Baked in, you'll find more rule options for all the character classes in the Player's Handbook, including more subclass options. Thrown in for good measure is the Artificer class, a master of magical invention. And this Witch's Brew wouldn't be complete without a dash of added artifacts, spellbook options, spells for both player characters and monsters. I guess that's enough dashes there, right? Magical tattoos, group patrons, and other tasty goodies. We just talked about all this, didn't we? There is an alternate art cover with a distinctive design and soft touch finish. It's going to be available exclusively in game stores. This is going to release on November 17th, 2020. That's right. Not too far off. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is going to carry an MSRP of $49.95. That is the MSRP. I do see a Great Ace pointing out that Amazon is offering it for $35. So let's see. A lot of stuff going on in chat. So let me jump into chat. We'll take a peek here before we move on to the next news piece. So Melwinius was also pointing out that that he enjoys the Upper Deck Legendary Aliens. So everybody's talking about So Kurt Pearson says, I'm surprised Wizards of the Coast kept TASHAS a secret. Is that a first? Well, it's kind of funny because I heard grumblings of this morning. I didn't see anything official until my contact over at, it's not actually Wizards of the Coast. It's a PR company that Wizards of the Coast employs for D&D. And they shot me the official information because I was like, if it's not out there, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, there's a new book coming for D&D and then being wrong. So Grade A says the alternate cover, they're not sure if that means it's more money or not. It's yes, Kevin is correct. Kevin R. Smith is correct. The alternate covers lately have only been available at brick and mortar stores. You can only get it at your friendly local game stores. It is not available at bookstores either, right? It's got to be a friendly local game store. Usually, they have to be part of Wizards of the Coast's kind of, I forget what they call it. It's like a tier of retailer. And I think these retailers hold the D&D adventures, the Adventures Guild, where they have the weekly gaming sessions and stuff like that. So, yes. So, Kurt is correct and Kevin is correct. It's not an addition. It's not a higher price. Now, granted, these usually end up on the secondary market and they are priced up. But if you do pick it up at your local game store, it's just the regular $49.95. So I guess you've got an option. You can go and save some dough buying it from some online publisher, online retailer or something like that. As Grade A has pointed out, it's $35 over on Amazon when it comes out. Or get the alternate cover and grab that for the regular MSRP. I don't know if I'll see both of these. There have been times that Wizards of the Coast has sent both copies. They've sent the alternate cover as well as the standard cover. But then the last time they did that, they did not. I'm trying to remember which one it was that they did not include the alternate cover out to reviewers, which is fine, to be honest, because basically all I would do is do giveaways. So Grade A is asking if that's Lutz behind her on the alternate cover. Not a clue. Not a clue. But it seems as if we've got a bit of D&D coming for the fall. So you figure it's next month that we should see the Rime of the Frost Maiden. Taking that right off the top of my head. I think that's what it is. And then October, we'll see the Curse of Strahd revamped. Get it? Which really isn't new, but it is a D&D release. And then come November, we shall have Tasha's Cauldron of everything. So sweet. There's probably some cool stuff in that. I am going to talk a little bit about this parlaying with monsters because it's going to include some new rules for parlaying with monsters. I'm going to talk a little bit about that once we finish up the news. So moving on to our next news story, up on Kickstarter right now from Mantic Games is the Hellboy role-playing game, or I should say it's Hellboy, the role-playing game. Here's the dope. Created by Mantic Games, the board game publisher behind Hellboy, the board game, and the team at Red Scar Publishing, Hellboy, the role-playing game is a totally new way to experience the inspirational work of Mike Mignola. Inspirational? I don't know if that's a word I would use. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hellboy's awesome. Excellent series. I don't know if I would say inspirational, though. Legendary? Groundbreaking? Yeah, okay. I would take those. Anyway, in this standalone game, you become a member of the BPRD and build your character from the ground up. Will you be a researcher skilled in the study of the occult, a hard-nosed BPRD security agent, a rookie with hidden supernatural powers, and more? The choice is yours. Based on the hugely popular 5th edition, we've made sure that Hellboy, the role-playing game, truly captures the experience of the graphic novels. We've added new mechanics such as Doom and Ingenuity, along with unique classes and feats that drive the agents of the BPRD in their mission to wipe out supernatural threats. When creating your agent, you'll have a range of skills to choose from. Will you specialize in science, technology, investigations, or become an expert in the study of the occult? Making the most of your special skills will be key in piecing together the clues and completing the case. Just like the board game, you'll have all you need to begin your adventures in the world of Hellboy and the BPRD. The 240-page book contains all the rules you'll need for learning 5th edition, along with detailed instructions on creating your character and an epic case file to play through. There is a short video that's going to show you a little bit more about Hellboy, the role-playing game. So let's kick back and give it a peek.
Are you ready to enter the rich Hellboy universe and experience your favorite comics like never before? Hellboy the Role-Playing Game is a brand new RPG powered by 5th edition, the world's most popular and accessible RPG rule set. With this in-depth book, you will have the tools to step into the shoes of a BPRD agent, ready to face the forces of evil. Create your own field researcher skilled in the study of the occult, a hard-nosed BPRD security agent, a rookie with hidden supernatural powers, and more. Or take on the role of legendary agents like Abe Sapien, Liz Sherman, Johann Kraus, or even Hellboy himself. The choice is yours. Create smaller case files you can play in an evening, or an entire chronicle packed with twists and turns. Tell your own adventures set within the inspirational Mignola-verse, and use all of your favorite miniatures of heroes and villains from the board game to bring your missions to life. Just like the board game, you'll have all you need to begin your escapades in the world of Hellboy and the BPRD. But it's not going to be easy. The impending doom clock constantly edges closer to chaos, and the longer your investigation takes, the more danger your team will face. You'll have to work together to make the most of unique teamwork abilities to solve the case and crack the clues. Will you be able to save the world? Good luck. You're gonna need it. Back now on Kickstarter to get the all-new Hellboy the Role-Playing Game. The future of the world depends on you.
The Kickstarter for Hellboy, the role-playing game, is well past the 600% funding level. In fact, it's pretty close to 700%. And you can reserve a copy of the role-playing game plus unlock stretch goals in PDF for a $14 pledge. Or you can grab the physical hardcover and PDF for a $40 pledge through September 7th. Expected delivery is next May. Interesting. I did throw in the Mantic Games minis because there is a pledge level that you can add a bunch of the miniatures from the board game to your pledge. Pretty cool. If I remember correctly, and I might be off here, I know there was a Hellboy role-playing game before, and for some reason, I thought it was for GURPS. So it was kind of a source book. Maybe there was another adventure book or something like that. I don't think there was a lot released for it, but somebody out there will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was for GURPS. So Kurt Pearson points out that the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount did not have an alternate cover, but Theros did. That is the one that I did not get an alternate cover for. I did receive, Theros did a review of it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was all right. It wasn't kind of a setting that I would jump into. In fact, to be honest, I felt it was a little undercooked. But we are not talking about that. We are talking about Hellboy, the role-playing game. I'm kind of surprised that they went with 5th edition. I'm surprised they're going with the open game license and didn't just come up with their own RPG system. Or even Savage Worlds, to be honest with you, because from what it looks like, and I got to be honest, all I know about this is what I shared with you and the images and the video. That is it. I don't have any inside dope. They are talking about ingenuity and doom, and it almost seems like these are resources for you to spend, kind of like bennies would be in Savage Worlds. So I would think maybe, like I said, I'm kind of surprised they went with 5th edition. Then again, it is the most popular role-playing game system in the world. So there is that. And a lot of people understand 5th edition. It is not overly complex. So I don't know. So does look kind of cool. I like the concept of having a Hellboy role-playing game, because if you're a fan of Mike Mignola's stories, which have been going forever, even though he kind of retired from it, we still get the BPRD stories. We still get Hellboy stories. There's a lot for you to mine. There certainly is. There's a lot of material out there for you to mine for adventures. So Kevin R. Smith is wondering how useful things like the Doom mechanic might be for standard fantasy campaigns with a darker flavor. I don't know. Like I said, I got to be honest. I am not familiar with, except for we're sharing some interior pages. So a Grade A says this is developed by Red Scar Publishing. Yep, I know that. And Mantic is just pushing it out. Mantic is rolling it out because Mantic has the license. That's basically what this all boils down to. Because they got the license for the board game, they've been able to, I don't want to say finagle, but negotiate the license for the role-playing game, or maybe that was also built into the licensing for the board game. Don't know. But yes, I know Red Scar has done other role-playing games. It is possible that they're just very familiar with 5e, and some of their other releases are all built on the open game license as well. Don't know. All right, final news piece. Following a well-received quick start, the complete rules for Cthulhu are now available in PDF. I've got the dope. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be. Not in the spaces we know, but between them. Mankind likes to believe itself the foremost power in the world and the universe beyond. But this is a prideful illusion, a lie. Long before we rose from the slime, other powers far greater held sway upon our planet. And those same powers were always destined to one day return to their preeminence. Cthulhu is a role-playing game which explores a world in which one such horrific reemergence has already occurred, leaving the world in a post-apocalyptic torpor. Cthulhu is a tabletop role-playing game that's designed to allow you to explore many different past or future worlds where the mythos somehow took control. Perhaps human civilizations fell when Shub-Niggurath bestowed a terrible gift of fertility on the earth, or when Nyarlathotep's words seduced superpowers into mutual annihilation. Did Raleigh rise, waking you-know-who? Cthulhu is built upon a simple yet elegant D100 system. Players take on the roles of everyday people who are survivors in a post-apocalyptic world. Game mechanics... let me grab a sip here. Game mechanics emphasize the lethality of life in the fallen world in terms of threats to health and sanity. Rules also cover scavenging equipment and resources, often the only way survivors can obtain scarce supplies. By investigating horrors of the post-apocalyptic world and defeating their schemes and agents, survivors might just guarantee their community lives to carry on the fight, or they might unearth secrets that can one day overthrow the mythos overlords. The Cthulhu core rulebook is a beautifully and extensively illustrated 330, I almost said 333, 330-page book presenting the rules of the game and copious resources for running it. Whether you want a ready-made one-shot or an ongoing campaign of gritty survival horror, Cthulhu is your gateway to nightmarish versions of humanity's past or future. Do you have what it takes to be an apocalypse survivor? This 330-page PDF of Cthulhu is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $22.95. I think it's normally going to be $24.95, but it is showing right now kind of like a sale price for $22.95. And it does look like this is pretty impressive. It does look like this has been nicely put together. It's not necessarily built on basic role playing. It's not necessarily built on Delta Green. But if you are familiar with, say, Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green, they are D100 systems, you should be right at home with Cthulhu. All right, so that is it for tonight's news. So, let's see what's going on in chat real quick. So Melwinius says Darker Fantasy would be Arcane Codex, but it's only available in German and did receive some flack for its themes, kind of like Cult. It's another game that, yeah, I try to stay away from those kind of games because I'm not looking to kind of court controversy or anything like that. I get enough trouble already. So anyway, Dad from No Enemies Here must have dropped off and come back because he's like, hey, I made it. But he was here earlier. I said hi to him. Weird. So Pocket Hulu. I'm not familiar with, I know what Hulu is. That's who provides my live cable, but I'm not sure what Pocket Hulu is. All right, anyway, so I guess the big news today is the announcement of a new supplement for Dungeons and Dragons. And I had to laugh because there's discussion that because it's a lot of options, optional rules, optional subclasses, and things like that. But there's also rules for parlaying with monsters. So I have to wonder, so if you have to throw some new rules in for parlaying with monsters, does that mean everybody's just Monty Halling everything in the game? How could you be running Dungeons and Dragons? Well, I shouldn't say how, because a lot of people do it. I gotta be honest, I would not have a fun time in a fantasy role-playing game where all it was combat. And if you're not playing a game where your characters try to parlay with some of the monsters out there, then I don't know what's going on. Once again, I am of the old school mentality for fantasy role-playing games, that the characters are not superheroes right off the bat, because that's how Pathfinder and D&D now are. You roll first level character, and they are awfully powerful right out the gate compared to just the average, ordinary commoner, right? Which was not necessarily the case back in the day. Sure, we had 0 level characters out there. You know, common folk were considered 0 level, but you didn't have these super heroic first level characters. So Kurt Pearson says, love the parlay. My guys do this regularly. So I was going to say, and, you know, excuse me for going off on a little tangent, but we actually got plenty of time. This reminds me of just recently, and if you watch the show, I did talk about this a little bit. As a Grade A says, ever parlay a black pudding or gelatinous cube, maybe? Doesn't work out. So Grade A's like, yeah, parlaying the black pudding doesn't work. Doesn't work out well. So anyway, so I was running the Sunless Citadel for my nephew Cameron, his girlfriend Lexi, as well as Cameron's friend Cameron. And if you're familiar with the classic adventure, there's kobolds, there's goblins, there's more powerful stuff down below them, which they didn't actually end up getting to. But so the characters encounter Meepo, the kobold, and it turns out that the kobolds and the goblins are fighting for living space for Lebensraum, in the Sunless Citadel, which is essentially a keep that is kind of settled under the earth. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but still, that's the setup. And they find him sleeping, and rather than just kill it, they're like, "Oh, let's wake him up and try to talk to it." I mean, right off the bat. So of course, this ends up where they're considering Meepo to be a friend, and they get taken to the Kobold Queen, and they're basically tasked with going and getting back the kind of like the mascot of the kobolds, which is, if I remember right, it's like a fire drake or something like that. Fire newt, something along those lines. Like a little dragon net kind of creature. And of course they make their way, and they go through all these like traps and things like that. And they finally get to the point where they track down the fire drake, and the fire drake kills Meepo. Because he hates the kobolds, because he's basically been, imprisoned by them. And of course, my nephew and his girlfriend and their friend are like, "What?" They're like, "Meepo, no!" If you didn't do any parlay, well, then that would never happen. That would, they'd never get to that point. They would have killed Meepo the kobold, and then continued and tried to massacre all the kobolds that were living in the Sunless Citadel, and then tried to kill all the goblins, So, yeah, without trying to parlay with monsters and that's why I am a firm believer in, even if you want to play 5th edition, have some old school Renaissance mentality to what's going on. The monsters know what they're doing, right? There's a book out there called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. It's okay. I've listened to most of the audiobook. Just not a big fan of the narrator, their voice. And some of the information just is a little redundant. But it once again points out that good dungeon masters, game masters, when they're running an adventure, when they're running campaign, it could be even a one-shot, everything has to have the feel of a world that's going on outside of the player characters. The different factions that they run across in a dungeon delve don't just exist there for the players to slaughter, for treasure and experience. So Jorge Rodriguez has popped in. Good to see you, Jorge. Popping in right before the end of the show. So Malwinius is talking about Sword and Sorcery and the Lost Lands. Parlay, yes. Russell Higgins has joined us as well, too. Good to see you, Russell. So that's all I'm saying. I'm kind of surprised that one of the selling points of this brand new D&D book is going to be rules on parlaying with monsters. Really? I thought that was kind of a given, everybody. But Tasha's Cauldron of Everything could be pretty interesting. We will find out. Because I should end up with a review copy if, knock on wood, things stay the same with my relationship with Wizards of the Coast and their PR company. All right. Anyway, so Malwinia says that they think the PDF is free for Sword and Sorcery. Swords and Wizardry. Yeah, that's what Kevin Smith is talking about. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not familiar with Sword and Sorcery. But yeah, Swords and Wizardry, yes, is free. And it's really good. I reviewed it. If anybody out there has any thoughts on maybe checking out Swords and Wizardry, give my review a look. I show off the book, talk about it a bit as well. So definitely for an old school game, talking old school, we also have, what is it? Fantasy Basics? Or wait, Fantasy Essentials? It's the one that it's essentially just the basic and expert rules, but cleaned up so they're very, very easy to understand. Got old school essentials. That's what it is. In fact, there's a Kickstarter going on for 4 new books for it, which I talked about. I think it was last week. There we go. A great age, just old school essentials. So there we go. That is it for tonight's show. So as I always like to remind you, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ring that notification bell because it'll let you know not only when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, I'll also tell you when I upload other videos such as my unboxing for Beneath the Med from GMT Games. Got a lot of stuff cooking. I didn't do any videos this weekend because did some gaming. So that was cool, as well as my nephew Cameron's birthday. And then there was another get together for his birthday on Friday too. So anyway, don't forget, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Week from tomorrow, we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary at the Gaming Gang. So that's going to be fun. A week from today, there will not be a show. I did mention that last week. But a week from tomorrow, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of TGG. All right, everybody who watched live, thank you very much. We had a good chat going tonight. Very cool. Welcome to some new folks who are hanging out. Good to see you. Hopefully you'll join us again. And of course, we had quite a few of our regulars hanging around. I saw Flaming Huron had popped in right as the show was ending. So do, of course, want to make sure to say hello to Flaming Huron before I chime out. All right, so I will be back tomorrow. So everyone enjoy the rest of your Monday night / Tuesday morning. And of course, as I close out all my videos, unfortunately, during this pandemic, till I see you next, please do everything you can to be smart and stay safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, let me point out that the things I'm going to be pointing at, if you are just watching the Daily Dope stream, you may not see what I'm pointing at. Usually it will take about 12 hours once the stream is finished for YouTube to allow me to add my end screen. But if you're watching one of my other videos, such as my reviews or interviews, first looks, pastries, what have you, well, then by all means, click right here and you can subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel. If you click right up here, you'll find the latest episode of my live stream, The Daily Dope. And if you click over here, that's going to show you something that YouTube thinks you might like. Regardless, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thank you very much for watching.